Hello and welcome to Toby and the Whole Truth with me, Toby Jepson. I've been in the music and entertainment business for over 30 years, specifically as a songwriter, performer, music producer and music business consultant. I've also spent time in the film and TV industries. I've managed artists, tour managed, co-written songs for and with others. I'm a creative writer of fiction and have written and directed music videos through my film company, Big Bad Films. And most recently, I've entered the world of journalism by becoming a radio presenter for Planet Rock. This series of podcasts and my mission is to get beyond the myths, the glamour and the misconceptions by peeling back the layers and exposing the true beating heart of what it means to be in today's ever-changing entertainment industries. I've invited friends and colleagues from across all sectors to talk about their lives and experiences and shine a light on the realities that lay behind the curtain. So sit back, relax, and let's welcome our guests for today. Biff, or Peter Byford, if we use his real name, is of course the lead singer and main man of British hard rock band Saxon. Saxon are currently celebrating their 40th anniversary and were, until the lockdown began, on tour in front of sellout audiences all over the globe. Saxon are the archetypical survivors, proving how dogged determination coupled with focus and great music provides resilience in the face of often overwhelming odds. They have weathered the storms and come out fighting every time. But what of the man? What makes Biff tick? I caught up with him over a temperamental internet connection to let him reveal all. Okay, so I'm very happy to have Biff Byford join me today on my podcast series. Hello, Biff. How are you doing?
Hi. Does my head look big in this?
Not at all.
What's that shirt you've got on? What is it?
I'm going through the Brian May look today.
Have you dressed up especially for me?
Of course. Why wouldn't I? Now, when I was doing my research and my notes earlier on today, I realised that we've known each other. I mean, for probably about, just over 30 years, because the Little Angels opened for Saxon at the Paradiso in Amsterdam, I think in 1990.
Right.
What about that?
Yeah, I remember it. Didn't we do one in Zwolle as well?
We did Zwolle, and we did 3 or 4 shows with you, and I seem to remember it was Zwolle, Amsterdam, and there was somewhere else in Belgium as well. A couple of Belgium shows, I seem to remember.
I'm going to say that Amsterdam's in Holland.
Well, I know, but we met. I think what I would consider to be properly when Fastway were in Japan doing the Loud Park show.
With me before that in a studio.
Oh, we did.
You see.
Yeah, that was
You don't only need glasses; you need some vitamins for your brain as well.
What was that?
You came to Hook End Manor to check out the producer in the studio.
That's right, Stefan Gelfas.
Right, bunch of miserable buggers.
Was it Stefan Gelfas? Wasn't it?
It was.
Well, yes, you've totally. As a memory, I had completely forgotten about. So thanks for reminding me that one. What I'd like to ask you, and it's not supposed to be a leading question, but putting the music aside, what do you think your key role is, and what your key role has developed as, aside from being a singer? You know, working within Saxon and everything you've done in your career.
I think probably sort of, I turned into a manager for quite a while of the band, running all the financial side of things and keeping the band together, generally getting gigs, working with the agents. So, as we became more popular again the last 5-6 years or 10 years maybe, I wasn't able to do that and be a band member. A lot of complications going on there with, so working with in a band. You can't be in a band and be out the band at the same time. You have to be in the band, if you know what I mean. I'm trying to be very diplomatic. But, it's when you're managing the band and you're in the band, it can cause a lot of problems.
But I mean, it's interesting to me because I've, apart from being, I consider you as a close friend now, but, I had before that, I mean, I was an enormous fan of Saxon
In fact, Saxon were the first band I ever bought a record by as a kid. I think we've talked about this before. And so what fascinated me about you as a character is your staying power and that dogged determination to keep going and keep succeeding. Because I think one of the main problems that a lot of young bands have is that they give up. You know, it's an easy thing to sort of say, oh, it's too difficult, I'm not going to carry on. Would you say that is a fair representation of yourself? How do you view yourself in terms of your energies about keeping the band happening?
Well, I think for a band to come from nowhere and stay at it for long enough to be able to know if you're going to make it or not, because you have to give it some time. I think there has to be a certain amount of obsession involved in it, as well as being focused and driven. You have to be a little bit obsessive with things, which I am. If I'm doing anything, I sort of give it 100% all the time, and I can multitask quite well, so it does help. But yeah, I think music, especially if you're if you like a certain genre and you're not whipping and changing around a lot, trying to find an audience. I think if you're going down a straight road and trying to create something new, I think you have to be really focused and you have to be patient. You have to. I mean, a band has to have gigs, obviously. Nobody's got any gigs, but it's important for bands to have gigs because, for simple reason, they've got something to look forward to. You can spend hours and hours in rehearsal room writing, rehearsing, and there's nothing quite like a gig to hone your skills as a player or a performer.
Absolutely. Okay, so I think the key thing really for me with Saxon was, from a point of view of someone looking from the outside in, especially as a little lad when I was getting into rock and roll, was I felt a massive connection with the fact that you guys were from the same area as me. That's the first thing, and it was really important that. And I think that came through in a kind of, again, in a determination where, you were specifically you guys and Leopard, Def Leppard for me represented that kind of, I can do that thing. I wanted to be you. I wanted to be in a band that did that. How much do you think your environment in that period of time was part of that motivation?
I think like the solo album, School of Hard Knocks. I think that sort of sums up, where my attitude is and where I'm from. I mean, I didn't have a bad childhood. I mean, I didn't suffer. We had food on the table, but I was brought up in a very sort of small town. Well, actually, a big village with a coal mine and a couple of mills. A couple of textile mills, and. You were expected to get to go there, and I did go there and work there as a young lad when I was 16. But I got into music through a friend of mine, and my mum was quite musical, so I just wanted to learn to play a guitar, basically, and that's what I did. I learned to play guitar, not up to any sort of standard, but enough to strum a song and play along to things on the deck, on singles that you bought, or listening to Radio Luxembourg under the covers, so that sort of thing, and just to be a musician, really. That was my sort of goal, to learn to play something, anything, really. I mean, I learned to play the flute, I learned to play guitar, just anything to do with music. I was just obsessed with it, with playing and being a musician. And the singing came quite naturally as a secondary thing, really. But I think, I was obviously born in the 50s. So my parents were, came through the war. So things were a lot different then. People's attitudes were different. If you were like 14 or 15, you were still a young lad in people's eyes. It wasn't like today, where you're like, basically considered an adult at 16. Which is crazy, but there you go. So I think just that the whole environment and the whole setup was different. we didn't have a car. My uncle had a car. We used to go out with him. So it was just a very country upbringing, and I just wanted to do something different.
How much of an influence were your parents on your decision making? Were they supportive of you being a musician, or was it very much a case of they expected you to go down the picks? I know that was a big part of your obviously your early life. But did you feel that you were supported?
Well, my mum died before I really got into that type of thing musically. But she was a pianist, and she played the accordion really well as well. The squeeze box thing. So I was surrounded by music. My aunties were musicians as well. Dad wasn't, though. My dad was quite unmusical. But yeah, he supported me. He bought me a guitar, and then when I decided to play bass, he sort of traded that one in and brought me a bass. So yeah, he was supportive. He didn't think it was a real job. I mean, one side of my family thought it was great. The other side of my family kept asking me, when are you going to get a real job?
The classic line.
3 years ago, actually, it's just still some of the older aunties and sisters and people were like, what are you going to do when it all stops? I was like, well, actually, it doesn't stop. It just stops when you stop.
But that is quite an amazing. That's quite amazing for the period, isn't it? That your dad was that, to a degree, obviously quite enlightened. That he was happy for you, to pursue that. Because I mean, even in my days when we were first starting out, it was very frowned upon. I mean, I think this is where I found the interest of I find this really interesting. This whole debate about why do we do it? Why do musicians pick up an instrument? To some people, it's quite profound. Some people, it's a way of getting out, isn't it? Of escaping an environment. Do you think that was part of it for you? Do you think escaping Yorkshire and finding your way out? What were your dreams and your aspirations at that point?
Well, it was something to do. Don't forget as well. I mean, there's no internet or anything. We just had a TV, 3 channels or 2 channels, I can't remember. But there was TV and. It was frowned upon in them days when you drank when you were younger, so there was no drinking going on. It was an outlet for your energy, really. You were a young lad. I mean, some lads used to hang out on the street corners, chatting up girls and things, and getting a bit drunk. And then I used to stay in and play guitar. Learn to play guitar and listen to music. That was my thing. So I think that's what a lot of people did. And, one in every 20,000 persons, kid was into it. I had friends who were playing sort of guitars, but not that many. Some weren't interested. They were more interested in, going out and having a good time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I sort of, again, I think back to my early years, which I sort of often sort of say to, a lot of the young bands I come across is that, they've got all the gear, they've got the great guitars, they've got all the amps. It's these days, what used to be kind of almost anti-establishment now has become the establishment with an awful lot of these, colleges, music schools, and all the rest of it, allowing the possibility for you to be in the music business. I mean, I can remember my first guitar that I bought was a second-hand K or something like that, and I sprayed it with car paint, and it was my absolute pride and joy. And I think there seemed to be, I don't know if you agree with this, but that massively, for me, was part of the motivation was it seems unobtainable, it seems impossible, so that's the reason why I want to try it, because it was something that was unusual. But getting gear was difficult. I mean, was that something that you encountered as well? Did you feel it was like like an out of reach, or did you feel that did you always have that thing in your head? No, I'm going to do this. It was an absolute plan from the start.
Yeah, I did, and also you drew people to you or they drew you to them. So you ended up in a group of people that used to go out and watch bands, for instance.
Yeah,
we'd go and watch bands. We'd like walk to Sheffield, from Doncaster, which is quite a ways. We'd go there, and watch bands at the Black Swan, famous pub there, or Sheffield City Hall if we could afford it. Try and sneak. Or we just go stand at the exit doors and listen to the bands, down the back, that if we couldn't get in. Yeah. And they sometimes used to let us in for the encores, which was great. But I think the whole thing with being, being drawn, you're obsessed by it. It just envelops your whole life, and that's just what you want to do. You're just working. If you were working, I was just working for money to buy instruments or amplifiers. So, every Saturday we'd go into town. It was Huddersfield Town when I lived where I was born. And we used to go in there. There's a couple of second-hand guitar shops, and we knew the people really well. We'd go in and trade things and talk guitars and talk basses and talk amplifiers and generally build up a mishmash of a fantastic rig,
Yeah.
A friend who was a drummer, we didn't know any guitars at that time. We used to rent the village hall, the church hall, and we just used to jam. Me and the drummer, bass guitar and drums, just jam for like 3 hours playing absolute nonsense, really loud. And it was a great, learning curve for me.
So what sort of age were you? What sort of age were you at this point then, Biff? Were you still working in the pits at this point? How did it all?
No, I was at that point. Then I was probably about 18, 19. Don't forget, things came a little bit later in those days. I mean, I think like, for instance, Leopard. You talk about Joe. They came together quite early and stayed in that one band. I was in different bands for quite a long time. Swapping around and moving around. So, they came to that point a lot earlier and got a band together that went on, to become huge, from a young age. So it's just different people, different environments. Everybody's unique, aren't they? They deal with things differently. But I just think that whole, swapping and changing guitars and, making mistakes and generally fiddling around with gear and getting speakers working. Even on the first Wheels of Steel tour, when the album first came out, that first tour, we had quite small clubs, and me and the guitar tech built the PA. And he lived in a pub, and I used to dodge down there sometimes, and we just built it in the cellar. We got the plans from the library, RCA thing, wherever it was. Got the plans from the library and borrowed and stole some speakers and things. We made them, with horns and things, and that's what we had on the first Wheels of Steel tour. That's what we had. We built an eagle out of little mirrors. It was like instead of a mirror ball, we cut an eagle out of plywood, and we stuck little mirrors all over it. And that's what we had. That was that Wheels of Steel tour. We actually had that being pulled up backstage on a rope.
Amazing. That's the stuff, isn't it? This is the stuff. Is that the vision, the idea, and the vision made real? That you yourselves have that massive determination to achieve, and you stop at nothing to pull it off, isn't it? It's like we're going to show everyone what represents us. I find this stuff so fascinating. The kind of the motivation behind that, because who else would go into a cellar, and build a PA and build a model of an eagle?
But people did it though, and I'm sure people still do it. I mean, the first tour we ever did as Saxon was with Slade, and I think we were with ITV, and so were Def Leppard. And we did half the tour, and Def Leppard did the other half of the tour. So we did about 2 weeks, and then Def Leppard did about 2 weeks, and they had a PA that was built by their sound guy. It was a huge bloody thing. I mean, it's the biggest PA I've ever seen. And you just take it into all these universities and clubs. It's like mad. But they were nice guys, typical blokes taking the mickey all the time. But it was a great thing,
Can we just go back a little bit? I was reading somewhere of real interest that, I mean, you tell me if this is true. Was your first ever recording, was you playing the flute? I read that somewhere.
I don't think so, no. Unless somebody recorded a gig.
Okay.
I didn't last very long on the flute. It took me longer to learn it than it did to actually. I did longer learning it than I was in a band playing it.
Brilliant.
But I used to play blues. It was like
yeah.
blues. So it was a bit like scat singing, flute playing, a bit like Jethro Tull, but more bluesy. But and everybody played in A anyway, so it was all right. I didn't have to use the little finger too much. But it was good fun. I got out to play some gigs. but I was happier playing guitar at that time.
Yeah, yeah. Can you remember the very first band that you joined, though? What was the trajectory for you? How did that start? What was the first live thing you did? Because I know Son of a Bitch was probably, I don't know whether you regard that as your first proper band, if you like, but that...
I was in another band before that. We used to do quite a lot of gigs. We used to go out, we supported Budgie, a few bands actually around, Stray. So we were... It was more of a hippie heavy rock band I was in, and I was the bass player. There are pictures on the internet of me playing bass. I had a really rare Vox Phantom guitar. It was painted with Union Jack. Not Union Jack, sorry, Stars and Stripes. So yeah, it was, we used to wear flares and velvet coats and things.
Was that band Coast then? Are you talking about the band Coast?
No, it was Iron Man Wilkinson band. Yeah, Coast came after that.
Okay, so talk about them then. What was was that a local act? Was that...
Yeah, it was local to sort of Mexborough, that area. There wasn't much going on in the village I was in, so I had to travel. And I got to know these guys down there. And my wife at that time, my first wife, was from that area. So I knew the area quite well. And I did play in a couple of club bands doing sort of covers as well for a while, playing bass. We used to do a few Cream tracks and things like that. But
yeah,
we used to do a lot of sort of soul-y classics like On the Boardwalk and Soul Man and that sort of thing. And sometimes I'd sing Soul Man. I'm a soul man.
Yeah, great.
I sing all that. But it's all good. It's all good sort of training for your character, I suppose, or character building. And I tried a lot, hard, and we just kept trying. And I tried the same, we make demo tapes with all those bands and send them off. And it wasn't until actually that I ended up, with Son of a Bitch, that actually somebody got back to us with one of the demo tapes. So it took a while, we weren't your mixed bag, really. We were like a bit of a biker band, really, I think, back in the first initial days. And especially with Wheels of Steel, when Wheels of Steel came out, that really shot us into that space, if you know what I mean. First album wasn't really All Those Stallions of the Highway is on there, which is the biker song. But I think we just filled a gap that was there. There was no real, biker bands, if you know what I mean. Steppenwolf maybe is the biggest one, the Wild. So there was nobody doing any anthems that sort of, rockers, calling that phrase, rockers liked.
Yeah.
So I think we sort of filled that sort of, rough and ready sort of working class, tinkering around with engines on the weekend, covered in oil, wearing a leather jacket and silk scarf. I think we sort of, that's the image that I liked, and that's the image that I went for. Writing songs about bikes. I've been a biker for forever. I always had motorcycles. So yeah, I think that as a big thing to play with. I mean, the rest of the band, never even rode a bike at that point. I think Steve Dawson had a Lambretta, which counts as one. It's got two wheels. But, yeah, I mean, I was a bit of a speed merchant biker, if you know what I mean.
Yeah. So, how difficult was the scene at the time to kind of, in terms of actually being able to go out and play your own original material ahead of getting the deal and ahead of moving into that point where you were in a studio? What was that scene like at the time?
Very early on, I was writing music, and the kind of music I was writing, things like, I don't know if you know all our albums, but first album, Still Fit to Boogie. That's my song. That's my riff. That's my song. Yeah. So it's all quite blues rock. But me and Paul were writing our own songs. It was very proggy. A lot of stuff that me and Paul wrote proggy. It's a 3-piece band we were in, very into Queen, and so we'd go off into different time signatures and mess around. We enjoyed it. I had great fun. Then when we got together with, they were called Sod. I used to go see them a few times around town. and they're a pretty good band actually. I think them and Sob, Coast and Sob were probably the best two bands in that sort of Barnsley area.
Okay.
At the time, I mean, they wanted it to be a three-piece, but I said no. I mean, they didn't really want Quinny. It's a good job we took him though. I don't think Graham on his own could have took the band where we went.
Right. It's the combination of people, isn't it? It's the combination of personalities. That you hope that the great bands, in my estimation, are ones that cover each other. Like your massive leadership thing that you show with Saxon, I think is obviously clearly key. But you've also got that great musicianship of Paul underneath, that inventive, because Paul's such an incredibly inventive guitar player, and I think there's something extraordinary about what you two have always done together. I mean, do you think that's a fair assessment?
I think when we actually got it together, when Saxon sort of came together with that first album, I think we sort of got rid of that album. I mean, most of it was songs that me and Paul wrote in Coast, and some songs that they wrote in Sob before Son of a Bitch. But I think it just that band gave me a fantastic vehicle for my lyrics and melodies. I was able to really come to the fore, because the music that we were writing was just slightly different than what been before, and I think that developed into something a little bit more unique as we sort of got honed it down. But, I think we had a bit of Deep Purple and a bit of Motorhead and a bit of. I mean, it was a very mismatched thing. I think that's what comes with a unique thing. You take things that are already there and you mix them all up until it comes out differently.
Yeah.
I think my style of singing and the melodies I was writing just worked in that band. Obviously, worked in the bands before because we didn't get a deal, and that is the pinnacle of working hard at that time anyway. Different now, is getting a deal and having a chance to become successful.
Okay, so can you pinpoint a sort of Eureka moment where it all crystallised and you thought, oh no, I know what this has got to be now? And because I know you talked about the biker thing, but when was that? Was there a point where you felt this is it? I've got this idea. We're moving forward with this, and you finalised that in your head, sort of thing.
I think so. I think on the writing of Wheels of Steel, actually. In them days, we'd write. We usually rent a studio, which the record company rented us this place up in Wales in the mountains, and I've got a 4-track Refox, and or was it a TIAC? Probably a TIAC actually.
Yeah.
And up in the mountains with it, recording, writing, and I think at that point there we sort of created something that was a bit special, and my ideas of the melodies fitted well with the lyrics. That it all worked. What I'm saying, like a machine, it all clicked in, and the ideas that I had about power cuts in America and 747s trying to land with no runway lights, and sing about American cars, Wheels of Steel. It all came together lyrically in that one album, Wheels of Steel, and the boys wrote some great music. That's all 5 of us were writing then. I was playing guitar a lot, and they were like multi instrumentalists anyway. So it was just a mismatch of having nothing else to do but eat, sleep, and write music. And I think that and the thing is, you can't keep when you're doing that sort of thing. It's very easy to fool yourself by playing loud and having a good time. That it's a great song. You have to sort of back off a bit and until you've got like enough songs, and then go back and have a listen and fine tune them. Just bring the bits that are great even better. The bits that aren't so great, rewrite them. And you have to be very brutal with songs, I think, sometimes. Sometimes you write a song, in 5 minutes, and that's how it stays.
Yeah, totally. So were the other guys as motivated as you? Do you think they believed in it as much as you, or do you think it was you were entirely leading from the front and it was a case of that was the principle, or do you feel that they were reticent in any way, or was it absolutely a gang and that was it and you were all in it together?
No, it was definitely a gang. I mean, this is what I'm saying. We were all playing guitars. We were all writing all the time. So it's difficult to say who wrote what, actually, in actual fact.
Yeah.
You know, ex-members and people think that they wrote this song and wrote that song. But actually the truth is that everybody was writing everything together. So there wasn't one real, genius, that was writing music. I'd sit down with them and I'd have an idea and I'd sit down and we'd bounce lyrics around. Sometimes good to bounce. I mean, I used to bounce ideas off people all the time with it, but I learned myself to not do that anymore. Quite a big breakthrough for somebody that's used to working with band. But I mean, I think I was driving it in that I was recording it and I was the one that was rehearsing it and arranging the songs to fit in my sort of melodies. There wasn't no singers in the band, so I was the only singer. So obviously, I wasn't getting any help with that side of it.
Yeah, no.
I don't think, as far as I remember anyway, just a fantastic time of absolute inspiration, mind-blowing time. Really, we were there for 2 weeks. We wrote that album. And we were so blasted, we didn't even know we'd got a good album. We just thought, we just loved the songs,
Yeah, totally.
Honed them down to being really, really, really sort of listenable, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, totally. I mean, it's a fascinating subject, this, for me, because I think what you're saying there is so true, is that when you're in the moment making records, the weirdest thing happens is that you do. I mean, I've done it many times. I'm sure you have. It's that second guessing thing. Have we got what we need? And do we really know what this is? And actually, a lot of the time, you don't really know, do you? It's it's an unknown quantity, and the acid test is releasing it and seeing how the public react to it. Obviously, did you? Because I mean, obviously, what happened with Wheels of Steel? I mean, I remember that as a fan of yours, as a little lad, sort of buying the album, and I can remember you guys on Top of the Pops performing and all the rest of it. How quickly did it go from, we've got a little deal and we're doing our thing, and how did it quickly go from that to the next stage, which was the big tours, getting into America, etc. How quickly did that whole process happen?
Very quickly, actually. Once we're on the second album, let's say we started the Wheels of Steel tour, and that sold out. Things like Nottingham Boat Club and Ford Green in Leeds and all that sort of gig. The regular sort of circuit, Middlesbrough Rock Garden, and that type of show. And then we did another tour more or less straight after it, which was City Halls, and then we did another tour after that, which was two Hammersmiths and things like that. So it went very quick for us. And we signed with an American agent quite early on. We went to America, I think it was 80, but it could have been 81, but I think it was 80. First tour we did was Rush, which was quite a massive tour.
Yeah.
25,000 people every night. It was a bit of an eye-opener. So I think it was probably the wrong band to tour with, but I just think they wanted us in there because this British metal thing, was sweeping across the planet really quickly. And I think us and Maiden were there, giving it a lot of touring. We did the Whiskey, the famous Whiskey when Metallica supported us, and it was it was crazy. I mean, it was so crazy. I mean, you didn't really realise how crazy it was when you're in it.
No,
you're like,
right?
And you get off a plane, you drive to the venue, and then playing for 25,000 people, and then America was a bit of a eye opener for us, and I never seen that many people inside a building. You know what I mean? Being festivals, but to see it night after night, 20, 25, 16, it's like, I think it changes you forever, that. When you think, we sold out Newcastle City Hall, which is fantastic, obviously, but then you go to America, and I don't know if I preferred the Newcastle City Hall. I'm a big fan of the British theatre circuit.
Oh.
I'd rather do 6 Hammersmiths than 1 Wembley, if you know what I mean. I'm sure a lot of the mockers would think I was stupid, but there you go.
But I mean, okay, so what I think is really fascinating is the feeling it gives you, the explosion of British heavy metal, or what they call the new wave of British heavy metal, whatever we want to call it. Could you feel that buzz? Did you know how potent it was at the time?
I think we noticed the difference between the first album, which was 79, and the next album, Wheels of Steel, which is 1980. We obviously did a Motorhead tour in that period, which helped us massively. But before that, the gigs that we were playing were basically the same gigs we played before, just more people in there after the first album came out. And we just noticed there was a lot of younger audience, a lot of school kids coming, stupid calling them school kids, but that's what they were, 14, 15, 13-year-old. We had a lot more of those people in the shows. We had to start doing underage shows, which was unheard of really in England at that time. Yeah, you could see something was happening. The excitement, it was a definite change. We did a really, really interesting show in that period with Iron Maiden at Manchester Unit. And the headline act was Nuts, a band called Nuts.
Oh, yeah.
And we were on in the middle. Maiden opened, we were on in the middle, and then Nuts were on. It was a classic, Nuts were like a touring band in the 70s. They weren't massive, but they were quite big. I think they made a good living touring. Sassafras and Good Habit and all those sort of bands were around at that time. And we played to a packed sort of audience, and it was all young students. And Nuts went on. They're a good band, don't get me wrong, but they look so boring. Playing these long guitar solos and playing the blues all the time. And they went down okay, but a lot of people left. And the guitarist singer, we were like hanging out backstage having a beer, and he came in the room and he went, "I've never seen 2 bands go down so well and sound so crap in my life." We were like a bit stunned, really. I didn't know what I was talking about. We were just like going on and ripping it up. That's really summed it up. The difference between, the audiences, not really the age of the musicians, but just the audiences and the type of music you were playing. And obviously, the generation of people chose our style of music. They chose Saxon, they chose Maiden, Motorhead. Motorhead were pretty big at that time, but even so, they were very influential in that movement. That's what we saw, and it was great. It was our audience, and we noticed it straight away. We thought, Jesus, we've never played to this many people, because it's quite a big venue, Manchester Unit. Never played to this many people before. We've never seen people go so crazy before, and it was a big eye opener, especially for Nuts, obviously. So that was it, and we'd be touring, and some of the 70s bands that we loved, would come see us, bring their kids to see us, and we were happening, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, at that particular period, obviously the punk thing had exploded in sort of 77, and it changed the landscape in its entirety, really. How much do you think that had influenced the way that Saxon presented themselves? Because certainly, I know, I worked with, as you know well now, I worked with Fast Eddie Clark for a while, and I all remember Eddie sort of saying, that Motorhead regarded themselves as the conduit between the punk scene and what was the emerging metal scene at the time.
Well, I think we did as well. I think we picked a lot of that up from Motorhead audience anyway.
Yeah.
But I think the punk thing, you know, we call ourselves Son of a Bitch because we got more gigs in that punk period.
Yeah.
And we did that. Some people thought Sob was, but it wasn't. It was me that came up with the idea of Son of a Bitch. Basically just to try and get a bit more sort of, rebel sort of image going.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the punk thing, there's a lot of fashion involved with it, you know, and there were some great bands, and those great bands continued. But I think people were getting a bit disillusioned. It was a bit of a London thing. The press were in London. Everything was, it was on Canopy Street, and, you had to have, a huge Mohican and, a sort of, a doorstep through your nose or something to look, to look sort of, different. And it was very fashion based. And I think a lot of younger generation didn't buy it.
Yeah.
They wanted something a bit sort of, a bit more sort of, locked in, a bit more solid, not so fashion based, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love punk. I mean, I really did. I think punk did for us what, sort of Nirvana and Pearl Jam did for other bands, it launched a new thing. And, people were used to going crazy at gigs with punks. Moshing, where it all started, really. And, we picked up a lot of that audience. And definitely a lot of, disfranchised punks came to metal gigs because they could go crazy and rip a few seats out of the floor. And that's what they did. And we saw that with Motorhead in '79, and we saw that with us when we set off on our own sort of path.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well, I mean,
We're done yet?
no.
Okay.
Are you getting bored?
Now I've got other things to do, mate. Go on, carry on. Go then.
Well, I won't keep you much longer. When people look at the music business, people from the outside who are not in the music business, a vast amount of the perception of it is about the excess. It's about all the obvious things associated with it, which is largely media-based. Have you had periods in your life it was difficult for you and it felt like you were fighting an uphill battle, etc., etc.? And what were the strategies that you formed to get out of that? Because there are a lot of people that have had terrible mental health issues. I mean, we've seen some very high-profile, incredible artists that no one would ever have thought about that would have, depression problems or whatever, that have taken their own lives, for instance. I mean, have you any experience of that, whether it's yourself or whether you've come across that, and what were your strategies to deal with that?
Well, when you're touring at high levels, it's very easy to indulge yourself in lots of, different things. I mean, it's very easy when people love you. They'll give you anything, and people just want to be your friends, I suppose. And with us, we didn't really have a problem with drugs. I mean, I know the other guys that had tried drugs. Me and Quinny, in Coast, we used to have the odd joint now and again. But it sort of, it didn't really get into a habit. We didn't get hooked on it. Don't ask me why. I know some people that had it first thing in the morning and smoked it all day until they went to sleep at night. So, but it is a bit of a brain destroyer if you take too much of it. And But no, I don't think nobody had a massive alcoholic problem. I think at that time, I think it was getting a bit wacky. But the people had experimented with LSD and stuff, and that was the big drug in the 70s. Cocaine, I had some cocaine a couple of times, but didn't really send me to a place where I was happy. So I really got nothing to be depressed about, really, to tell you the truth. I didn't really have any, I wasn't married at the time. I was footloose and fancy free. You have to remember that Steve and Graham were married. So they just did things differently. But I don't think we had a massive amount of pressure on us to, because we wanted this bloody thing for so long.
Yeah.
we actually got it, we were aware that we didn't want to throw it away, on self-indulgence and testing to see if we got any sort of, some people do have, a gene in them, you know what I mean? That they get addicted to lots of different things, and some people get addicted to drugs, and that it's bad. It is really bad, and so luckily we didn't have that sort of problem within the band. That doesn't mean to say we weren't sort of debauchering our way across the planet. We were. Nobody to my mind was addicted.
Well, I've got to say, I'd be hard pressed to think of another band that have lasted the test of time. And I know that you've had your struggles. You had the big court case in the middle over the name and all the rest of it. And then you kind of went into Europe and survived over there and rebuilt yourselves over there. It's an extraordinary tale. I often sort of think about it, and when I talk to people about our friendship and what we've things we've discussed, it's an incredible thing for you to still be here doing this. And actually, I don't know. I could say I can't think of another band that have gone through that tumultuous period and come back out stronger than ever. I mean, you arguably now are stronger than certainly stronger than you've been for a long time. It's probably stronger than you've ever been before. The perception of the band is absolutely extraordinary and deservedly so, in my opinion. I mean, the music business has moved on so much. How much do you think the longevity is down to dogged determination? How much do you think it's down to the system in terms of, say, the internet and the way that people react with and can interact with their favourite bands? And do you think you would have got to this point if it hadn't been for the way that the system had changed, or do you have another opinion?
Well, the thing is with the whole internet thing, that you get into this, people get into this mindset that because we're a band that's been around in the 80s, we just recording on analog, and we still use like plastic phones, like the Queen. And but in actual fact, if you think about it realistically, bands like us, we've grown through all the digital innovations. We were on the cutting edge of it when we did the This Lord album, because Philips were developing CD players. So we saw all that happening down there. And we've always used, we used the first stereo sampler there. Actually, we sampled Elton John while he was rehearsing. Right. So we've always been on the edge of technology. I mean, people might not understand this who are listening, but when we used to do the masters onto a Betamax videotape, digital. That was the first digital, machines that people used. We were on that. We mixed analog and digital just for the hell of it, because we could. And we'd be experimenting with all sorts of different things because, especially in our style of music, experimentation is the key. Experimentation in songwriting, experimentation in sounds. When we were looking for gunshots for Dallas 1 p.m., we went out to Woolworths and bought an album, BBC album, and we recorded the gunshots from, I don't know what, from some film, and then we got the radio commentary from Walter Cronkite, and we put it all together on, 4 quarter-inch tapes and pressing buttons and, waiting for it to come through in time. It was all done absolutely at the moment, and if it didn't work, we just rewind everything and do it again. So I think experimentation and trying to push your envelopes, but at the same time, just trying to keep it in check so you don't go racing off to a different place where people don't understand what you're doing.
Okay, absolutely amazing, mate. I mean, just a couple of little things to finish off then. And what gets Biff Byford up in the morning now then? Are you still as ambitious as you ever were? Have you still got a long-term view of this? I mean, how do you value your going forward from here?
Well, these days, staying alive, mate. That's the big thing now, isn't it? Staying alive and stay healthy. Keep away from this beast of a virus that's everywhere. But yeah, I mean, I'm writing lyrics for the next album, doing melodies. I'm building a model railway, doing the scenery and stuff. So walking a lot. And generally, I'm lucky. I live in the countryside, so I just have to go out the door and Yeah, just trying to keep busy, really, and move on. The internet's like the gigs, it's like we used to play as many gigs as we could so we got known. And now it's the internet. You have to put as much stuff on there as possible to get known. And you have to keep known. And you have to make sure that people can connect. I think if they stop, if they take down the internet, though, we're all screwed.
I think you're right, mate.
Do you know what I mean? If that's the next rule coming up, it's like keep people in their houses.
Absolutely. It's been absolutely amazing. Thank you so much for talking to me. You've always been an incredibly inspiring character to me, and been fantastic to me over my career. And I've taken an awful lot out of your energy. It's extraordinary.
Can you give me back one day?
Mate, it's always here for you, pal. You know that. Fantastic. Well, I know I sent you a little email earlier on just about this last question because it's only for a bit of fun, but I think it's quite revealing. I think it's quite interesting what the answers I've been getting from people. But can you sum up in 3 words these next 2 things, the most negative aspects of yourself and the most positive aspects, just in 3 words for each one?
I hate singers.
That's a good one. I like that.
Only joking. Impatient.
Okay.
I can be very impatient if people are keeping me waiting, especially at airports. Terrible. Good point. I don't know. I'm quite generous. That's it, really.
All right, Biff. Well, listen, thank you so much for joining me. And it's been an absolute pleasure to talk through some aspects of your life there. And it's really, really brilliant. I'm sure people get an awful lot out of that. It's great to hear it from somebody who's been through probably the most important period of music ever and is still working hard. And I'd be hard pressed to find somebody else and another band that are quite so inspiring. So thanks so much for joining me, and look after yourself and stay safe.
Yes, Toby, and get a shave. See you later.
Take care, mate. Thank you.
Stay safe, keep faith.
Thanks to Biff Byford there for joining me on Toby and the Whole Truth. I'll be back next time with another fascinating character to tell us all about their experiences in the music and entertainment business. Until then, take care of yourselves. I've been Toby Jepson. This has been Toby and the Whole Truth podcast. Thanks so much for listening. Bye for now.
That's why most of us exist on